Hey everybody! Well, this is another one of my vlogs. This is I got 5 weeks basically until the beginning of next semester, and I need to turn in my syllabus by January the 3rd. Class begins on January the 10th, but they want my syllabus by January 3rd, which is fine. And one of the reasons I'm working on it right now is that I have to turn in my thesis by January 10th as well. But so I need to get my syllabus done quickly. And so I've been talking to my students. So I talked to my students in my English 101 class, and I asked them, what would the students next semester prefer over what happened this semester? Okay. I'm asking for their help, essentially. I'm not making sense, but who cares, right? Anyway, so what could I do to improve? I told them about Edward Deming and how he helped the Japanese conceive of the idea of Kaizen, where basically you improve everything by 1%. And by improving by 1%, then of course your total product is going to be improved over time, which is fantastic. So that's what I was pointing out to the students. And so we talked, we had a pretty good discussion, and the recommendations they came up with were pretty good. So I typed them out in class with them, and we got feedback and took some votes and stuff. And the most popular thing was doing more work in class, which is kind of funny because I already make them do work in class. So once a week, okay, I have students do an in-class, do a discussion post. And in the discussion post, we focus on paragraph, and then in their replies, they're required to reply according to what they're learning about the writing process. Not whether they agree or think the person made a good point. I mean, I don't give two craps about that, but was the person able to, in their paragraph, properly structure it, to make a good argument? Or could the peers isolate the argument? So those are things we do every week. So I really focus every week on a discussion post, and then we do an in-class writing assignment once or twice a week. And then we do group work. So we do in-class work. So there's no question we're doing in-class work. The issue is that they're wanting to do the homework in class. The students have different categories of assignments, right? So we have, essays 1, 2, 3, and 4, and each one of those essays have a certain percentage of the grade, right? And then there are a few other areas of the class. Okay, one of them is Achieve assignments. These are little puny assignments from Achieve. And then there are class presence. So class presence things are like what we discussed, the discussion post and the in-class writing assignments, and other little piddly things. And then there is quizzes and pre-writing assignments. So these are all assignments that they do at home. And what they want to be able to do is do the pre-writing assignments in class. And the reason they're stating they want to do the pre-writing assignments in class is so that they can get feedback while they're doing it from me. And I thought that was an interesting comment, and I really have to think about it. The only problem is that there's a lot of material that has to be covered in class. And if it becomes predictable, this is the thing. If it becomes predictable, say every Friday, we're going to do homework in class. What's going to happen is I'm going to start seeing absent students. A lot, attendance is going to go down the toilet on Fridays because they're like, oh, why should I come and do homework in class when I can do homework at home? Because except for the essays that people have to turn in, none of the homework is difficult. It's all pretty easy stuff. Like, for example, people have to turn in an outline. Every paper you have to turn in an outline. Well, I don't make them turn in the outline all at once. I make them turn it in chunks. So like they have to turn in the introduction one day, and then the next day they'll have to turn in the a review of literature, and then the next time they'll have to turn in the support paragraphs or half of the support paragraphs. and then the following time they have to turn in the conclusion. And so they're basically outlining different paragraphs as they go through, showing how the evidence is being deployed in their outlines, things like that. And it works really well. In fact, most students really like that, but there are a few students who think it's busy work. They don't understand the point of having to do the outlines. They hate doing the outlines. It's important to hear, but these are also students who have a hard time just doing the homework. And so I think for a lot of the guys who are making the claims that doing the outlines is just busy work, and so that's their excuse for not doing the homework, I'm just like, okay, that's fine. Your level of commitment is a C grade. I'm okay with that. You can get your C grade. But the students who are getting A's in the class and B's in the class generally really like doing the outlines, because they're like, well, if I have noticed that when I do outlines, my papers are better. And some of them are saying they've been using it in their other classes, because like a lot of them have a literature component they also have to take this semester. Or they have some type of like sociology or some crap, and they're using the same techniques on those essays, and they're saying their grades are improving when they do the same thing there. So it's not something I'm willing to give up necessarily, but the question is, should I allow them to do them in class? And if I do, and I've been thinking about it, it might be handy to do it in class. However, I don't want it to be predictable. You see what I'm saying? If I put it in the syllabus so everybody can see, oh, on this Friday or this Wednesday, we're going to do this outline in class, then I'm going to have a lot of absent students. That's my concern. Okay. So pretty interesting. That's kind of the headway I've made. I also went over in class on, made a rough draft of a form to help students be able to write their works cited page. The biggest problem students have is that they are often trying to use EasyBib to do the works cited page, and EasyBib is straight up garbage. Please don't let your students use EasyBib. It is garbage because it doesn't report things correctly, and it often reports the wrong things. And quite often, leaving out important things, thus turning their works cited page into a work of plagiarism. So I don't like letting students use EasyBib. It's not a good thing to use. And quite often, I don't like them using like some of the automated citation tools that are in like JSTOR or in the library's system. The reason is either it's using an old system, often version 6 of MLA, or it's what some coder think is important for MLA, and it's either including way too much information or a lot of information that is completely pointless. And also not current with what's happening right now with MLA. And so what I like to do is I say, okay, we're gonna follow the standards that is in Purdue OWL, and I want you to use those. And so I made some draft worksheets for the students to see what is in, how to use the information in MLA according to what's in Purdue OWL in order for them to find things in a book so they can turn that in instead. So that's worked pretty good. So those are the things that I've worked on. And the reason I didn't do more hardcore planning is really simple. It is right, and my due dates for my assignments for my classes are coming due. So I turned in my final paper for my literary translation course on Thursday night. I had been working on it pretty solid for over a week, and at one point I did an exercise in it called the 24 hours of comics exercise. It's where over a 24-hour period you draw nothing but comics. Now, I didn't do it in a single day, which some cartoonists do. I split it amongst 2 days, where over 2 days for 12 hours straight I drew comics. And so I drew comic panels like these, and I drew 44 of them. And each one took about 30 minutes. Some of them took more than 30 minutes. And during that 24-hour period, I also rough drafted the translation, and it's a translation of, maybe you can read this as Dante's Inferno, Canto number 6. I rough drafted a translation of Dante's Inferno number 6. It took me about an hour and a half to do, and it was really simple. I basically took pieces of it and just threw it into Google Translate, which is garbage, please. I know. I have lots of other good tools for translation. But I used that to start just making cohesive sentences. And then I started working my way through the translation. And after an hour and a half, most of the sentences were real sentences, most of the time. And then, and so I was able to dream up images that were in there. And the thing about when you're doing the 24 hours of comics exercise, it's really fun, is that you don't do a lot of pre-writing, so that what you're drawing at that moment is really spontaneous, you know. And so, for example, when Dante talks about rending souls, you know, I drew this one where it basically looks like Casper, the friendly ghost, is being rent, you know. Or let's see, another one I like, where he talks about heaven just for a moment. And so for the heaven sketch, I drew, come on, I can find it. It's not too far buried. Maybe it is far buried. Oh, there it is. Like I drew this representing, heaven, you know, so a pickup truck. Well, it's basically a 57 Chevy pickup truck, which if I owned one of those, that would be just straight up heaven. So you could see that, you know, and then like the sparks, burning hearts and stuff like that. There are lots of things. And then after that, I had to digitally format it into a comic. So that was one of my final assignments. It was really, really hard. Actually, I think I would rather write a 20-page essay easily over any topic than this assignment. This assignment was super hard. And it had to be a creative assignment. It's for a creative class. It was for a translation workshop. And you know, the teacher wanted everyone to do real translation work in it. So we had to have a nice translation of Dante's Inferno, one of the cantos in Dante's Inferno. And it still had to be artistic, you know. So I'm an MFA student focusing on poetry. And so when I finished with my canto, I had to finish with this. I had to go back and redraft the poem to make sure it was still a poem. So I wanted it to be a poem in Italian, but I also wanted it to still remain a poem in English, in contemporary English, because I've read quite a few translations of Dante's Inferno, and some of them aren't poems anymore, or they're not understandable. Like Wordsworth's translation is the one I've studied, you know, most often in school, and it's lovely, but its English is so arcane that it's really hard to understand. I've read Pinsky's also, same deal, you know. So I worked really hard on my translation to keep the English really contemporary and to remain a poem and a piece of art and to have a lot of play. I think people take Dante's Inferno a little too seriously. I think he was farting around a lot. He was having a lot of fun. There's a lot of wordplay that goes into it. Now, my Italian is horrible. So there's, of course, I mean, I can't even, my Italian is horrible. But what I was able to worked very nicely. And so I have another paper that I'm finishing up. And that'll be all my assignments, and that'll be nice. And then the last things I really have to do this semester before really getting into the grind of my thesis and turning out that syllabus is grading. I have to grade 22 final essays, and their outlines I've already graded those. Their peer reviews for those. And then also I have to do a bunch of short stories. I have to read and grade. And so that's basically what I'm doing over the next weekend. So a lot of fun. So got some good feedback from my students. I have a pretty good relationship with my class. I'm really happy about that. I do think relationship with students is really important. Even at the college level, I try to form good relationships with my students. I think if you have a good relationship with your class, then they're going to absorb the lessons a lot better. And and just keep going forward. And I know it works the way I'm progressing, because compared to what people came in to where they're leaving the class, people's writing has improved momentously. And no one is turning in those 5-paragraph garbage essays that they learned from high school, which is awesome. Because I never want to see another one of those again at the college level. Anyway, you guys have a lot of fun. I'll see you later. Bye.